Italy has suffered under what I described in my last book, The Shock Doctrine, because a crisis that was created by some of the wealthiest forces in the world was systematically passed on to the people least responsible. And Italy got a pretty serious dose of it, and it wasn't in great shape before the crisis hit. It was, if I recall, in crisis before the crisis. And I think Italy is also an example of how it isn't just wages and security that gets sacrificed in these moments of shock. It is the planet itself. Italy had decided to expand offshore oil drilling in the name of getting out of crisis. So did Greece. And one of the many problems with having an economic system that sees itself as apart from the environment as opposed to entirely reliant upon it, is that as soon as a crisis hits, everybody says, well, we can't afford to care about the environment anymore. So I think what you have in Italy is a government that's trying to go in many directions simultaneously. It's not the only government trying to do that. Obama talks about an all-of-the-above energy system. We'll see what happens this year, because it's a big year for Europe and climate, because Paris will be hosting the most important climate talks since Copenhagen. So, even though there have been a lot of attempts to change the subject will turn back to climate by the end of the year. And it will also turn back, frankly, because this is not an issue that can be avoided indefinitely, because it is real, because it asserts itself, and it asserts itself in horrifying ways. It asserts itself, in the form of disasters. We can't know when they're going to hit, but we can know that they will hit. And so the argument I'm making is, we cannot afford to wait until things get so bad that we can't ignore it, because frankly, by then it's too late. That means we're hitting tipping points. We have to actually believe our scientists who tell us this is the moment to act, and we have to act. It's not about building an entirely new system from the ground up. We need to contract parts of our economy that are burning fossil fuels. But that doesn't mean that it's just about degrowth. We can expand large parts of our economy that are already low carbon, like the caregiving professions, like education, like the arts. But obviously we have to make huge investments in this transition, which would mean big investments in renewable energy, decentralized renewable energy, like we're seeing in Germany, which is already shifting that country's energy system to 25% renewables. But at the same time, they're not lowering their emissions sufficiently because they're unwilling to say no to coal. So you have to do both simultaneously. I don't think we actually have a good word for the kind of economy that I'm describing, because you could call it eco-socialist. A lot of people do. The truth is that when we've had state socialist economies, they've been very, very hard on the environment. They've had a very damaging relationship with nature. A phrase I like is regenerative economics, that we have an extractivist system that's built on depletion of resources. We need an economic system that is based on the principle that when we take from nature, all beings take from nature, we have to respect cycles of regeneration and amplify those cycles of regeneration. Well, look, I don't think we're all equally guilty. We are all living in a system fueled by fossil fuels. So we all feed that system. A lot of people enjoy efficient public transit more than they enjoy being stuck in traffic in their cars for endless commutes, as so many people are in North America. We don't have good options, which is why I think we have to focus less on the individual decisions and more on the policies that allow us to make good decisions and make good decisions easy. I think a large part of the responsibility has to rest with the fossil fuel companies, who have a business model that requires that they always have in reserve as much as they have in production. So what that means in practical terms is that right now the fossil fuel companies have 5 times more carbon in their proven reserves than our atmosphere can absorb, and still give us a decent chance of keeping temperatures below 2 degrees warming, which is what our governments defined as dangerous when they went to Copenhagen to negotiate. But we don't have politicians who believe they have a right to regulate corporations. They don't believe in it. They think their job is to get out of the way of corporations and just pursue growth. That's their job. They're extraordinarily uncreative. They don't know how to build things. They know how to unmake things. They know how to dismantle things. It's not that it can't be done. It's that they won't do it. And that's why the central piece of the argument is that we will not act on climate change until we have this broader battle of worldviews about what kind of ideology is going to govern.